Senior High School On-Air Academy. Unstoppable! Delivering you quality education amidst pandemic.
To defer school opening to October 5.
Unstoppable!
Giving you accessible learning platform anytime, anywhere.
Ang klase, whatever form it is.
Comprehensible!
Buckle up and get yourself ready.
I will repeat, then you will do it later on.
Accurate!
The sphere that includes all living things.
Today, we will be talking about rational functions.
Simplify.
This is Jaw speaking. How may I help you?
This is Fabm School Radio's Senior High School On-Air Academy.
And now, here's your new episode for Mind Assets 2.0. Your guide for the subject Fundamentals of Accountancy, Business and Management 2. Mind Assets 2.0.
Hello, my dear senior high school learners! Today is the 6th episode, way to go on the last quarter of this school year. Another set of concepts will be learned today that will make you concretize another journey of bookkeeping. And I am glad that despite this hard situation that we are facing right now, we can still learn as one through radio via DepEd Radyo Eskwela sa Isabela. I am your radio teacher on air, Rhea Jane Valle Bernardo, always reminding you to listen carefully in this episode. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah!
Once again, my dear learners, be sure you are in a comfortable place and no one can distract you while listening to our broadcast, because this is very helpful in our daily lives to become a well-off businessman in the future. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah!
I think you are now ready, so let's begin. We learned so much from the previous episode where you define income and business taxation and its principles and processes. You explained the procedure in the computation of gross taxable income and tax due. To assess your previous learnings, let me see how well you listened in the last episode. Let's check your previous fees. Number 1, income tax. Number 2, taxation. Number 3, 20% of the excess of 250,000 pesos. Number 4, 20,000 pesos. Okay, let's count your score. How many scores did you get? Wow! Fantastic! You did listen very well. Now we are going to explain the different principles and purposes of taxation. So, get ready your pens and journals as you enter the accounts in a book by having a relaxing environment as we welcome you to our today's episode. Stay tuned. I'll be back after this reminder.
Ayun na, ayun na, ayun na, sa Radyo Eskwela. Ayun na, ayun na, ayun na, sa Radyo Eskwela.
Tayo na!
Now that we are in the new normal, let us practice new things. Observe social and physical distancing at all times. Disinfect our things. Let our temperature be checked. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Use hand sanitizers. Avoid crowded places. And always wear your face mask and face shield. Always remember these things because health is wealth. Let us beat COVID-19. A reminder from the Department of Health, Department of Education, and this is Station.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela.
Tayo na!
And we are back! Once again, good day, my dear students. Still with your teacher Rhea, your school on air. Today's episode will focus on how to explain the principles and purposes of taxation. At this point, it is important to answer this question. What is tax? Why do we have to pay our taxes? Correct. It is very important for every individual who has a job or has a business entity to run to pay their dues simply because it is a responsibility. What are some points to understand in taxation? Let's have a recap. Taxation is an act, process, or means by which the sovereign or independent state, through its lawmaking body or the legislative branch of the government, makes a demand for revenue to support its existence and carry out its legitimate objectives. What do we mean by this statement? Technically, taxation has existed since the earliest form of recorded government in history, which is from ancient Egypt, when the pharaohs levied taxes in the form of shares of agricultural production and labor. The ancient Rome, where farmers were required to pay a tenth of their production or decima to the tax administration or erarium. And even in medieval Europe, where a similar taxation system became one source of financing for the church. Nowadays, governments have developed more sophisticated systems and processes for defining who is taxed, what is taxed, and how much is taxed, and which personal conditions of the taxpayer should be taken into account. But what are the principles that should underpin taxation? And how does this impact our lives? Let us talk about taxation principles. What are those? What are taxation principles? Taxation principles are the guidelines that a governing entity should use when devising a system of taxation. These principles include the following. First is the broad application. What does it mean? All right. The system of taxation should be spread across the broadest possible population so that no one person or entity is taxed excessively. Instead, the entire population shares in the taxation burden. People should be educated on what tax is. Any question? The second one is broad tax usage. What does it mean? Correct. Taxes are only targeted at a simple or specific use when there is a clear cause and effect between the tax and the use. In all other cases, taxes are collected for general usage. Otherwise, special interest will receive preferential funding. Here in the Philippines, we are being informed that any person who earns more than 30,000 pesos monthly is taxed. Any question? Let's proceed. The third one is the ease of compliance. What do we mean by it? The administration of taxation should be as simple as possible so that a taxpayer will have a little difficulty in complying with the tax payment requirements. Ideally, the taxation process is invisible to the taxpayer. What are the things being taxed? An example is the government employee who earns more than the projected salary is being taxed, and the requirement to submit is just simple as it was required. The fourth one is expenditure matching. The level of taxation should be approximately match the number of projected expenditures, so that the governing entity is prudent in covering its costs, but does not tax an excessive amount. If a person earns small, the person will pay according to the required amount tax. Okay, let's proceed. The fifth one is fairness in application. The type of tax imposed should present an equal burden on all taxpayers in the same economic condition. Further, the tax should not favor one group over another so that one group receives a tax benefit at the expense of another group. It means that we all know that tax is being imposed for the well-being of everyone. Any queries? Okay, let's move on. The sixth one is limited exemptions. Any exemptions from a tax should be for a limited period and for a specific purpose, after which the exemptions are eliminated. These exemptions are only intended to encourage certain types of behavior, usually involving economic development. What is being discussed? Indeed, during the process, the tax of a certain individual or business is being updated according to the amount being received through net income or salary being submitted. The seventh one is the low collection cost. What does the collection cost means? Exactly. A collection cost is a cost incurred to collect a debt that is owed, a process called debt collection. This could include expenditures for hiring a collection agency. Some contracts and regulations prescribe liquidated damages for collection costs. When collection costs occurs, the debtor has to pay off a debt to get the collector out of the collection costs. The costs required to collect taxes should be low so that the net receipts resulting from them are as high as possible. The eighth one is understandability. The calculation and payment of a tax should be easy for a taxpayer to understand. Otherwise, the amount of taxes remitted may be incorrect. Yes, the tax imposes should be clear to the taxpayer. According to Adam Smith, who is well known as the father of economics or the father of capitalism, According to him, the principles of taxation are fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency. Fair enough for everyone. We are confidently certain of the proceeds. Very convenient for the taxpayer to pay their dues, and finally, taxation is efficient. How about the purpose of taxation? Can you enumerate and explain it? Alright, let's discuss the purpose of taxation. The primary purpose of taxation is to provide funds or property to promote the general welfare of its citizen and enable to finance its multifarious activities. What does it mean? Technically, taxes being imposed to every earning individuals and businesses is of or great help in return. Taxes are being used as funds for the general welfare of every citizen. Here in the Philippines, the government used taxes to fund infrastructures like school buildings, hospitals, and any government facilities that would cater to the benefits of every individual. The secondary purposes of taxation are of the following. One is to reduce inequalities in wealth and income by imposing progressively higher taxes. There should be fairness in imposing taxes for each individual who has a higher salary than those who were earning lower. A business that has higher net income other than those businesses who earn beyond their income. The second one is to prevent inflation by increasing taxes or warding off depression by decreasing taxes. What does it mean? Correct. As we discussed earlier, the tax imposed should be fair enough to prevent the depression of a taxpayer. For example, a solo parent is not being taxed if he or she has more than 4 children. Isn't it fair enough? That was the long time ago. The third one is to strengthen anemic enterprises by giving tax exemption. Let's have a situation here. Is the government fair enough not to impose taxes on every vendor who sells commodities who earns enough for the day to eat? Yung mga tinatawag na isang kahig, isang tuka, na nagtitinda sa kalye na mga matatanda? Yes, I agree with the tax exemption. And lastly, the purpose of taxation is to protect local industries against foreign competition through imposition of high customs on imported goods. Fair enough, isn't it? The purpose is we gain from these imported goods in exchange for higher tax collection that will surely help us in building more infrastructures that the citizens needed. I think you are ready for a quiz, and surely you will get a perfect score because I believe you listen very well. But before that, let us have a short review. What are the basic principles of taxation according to Adam Smith? Yes, we have fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency. What are the purpose of taxation? Yes, the tax provides funds for infrastructure such as school buildings and hospitals. It also helps to strengthen anemic enterprises by giving a tax exemptions. Also to protect local industries by imposing a tax on every imported item. Madalas, tayo ay bumibili ng mga imported goods at yun ay kinakailangan talagang protektahan natin ang mga local industries. Kaya, we are going to impose a tax on every imported items. And lastly, to protect individuals and businesses by reducing inequalities. Alright, I think we are ready. But before that, let's have a short break.
Ayun na, ayun na, ayun na, sa Radyo Eskwela. Ayun na, ayun na, ayun na, sa Radyo Eskwela.
Tayo na!
I still feel sleepy.
Haven't you had enough sleep last night?
Yes, I didn't. I slept at around 11 o'clock last night and woke up at 5 in the morning.
But why? Don't you know that we, young ones, need 8 to 10 hours of sleep?
Is that so?
Yes, enough sleep will make us awake, alert, alive, and enthusiastic for the day. It will also make us healthier.
Thank you for telling me.
A reminder from the Department of Education, Department of Health, and this station.
Ayun na, sa Radyo Eskwela.
Tayo na!
Welcome back! Now we're going to have your short quiz. The instruction is like this. You are going to write true if the statement gives us the correct information and false if not. I will repeat the statement twice and I will give you 5 seconds to answer. Ready? Number 1. The theory in taxation states that without taxes, a government would be paralyzed for lack of power to activate and operate it, resulting in its destruction. I'll repeat. The theory in taxation states that without taxes, a government would be paralyzed for lack of power to activate and operate it, resulting in its destruction. Number 2. The power of taxation may be exercised by the government, its political subdivisions, and public utilities. I'll repeat. The power of taxation may be exercised by the government, its political subdivisions, and public utilities. Number 3. Generally, there is no limit on the amount of tax that may be imposed. I'll repeat. Generally, there is no limit on the amount of tax that may be imposed. Number 4. The money contributed as tax becomes part of the public funds. I'll repeat. The money contributed as tax becomes part of the public funds. Number 5. The actual effort exerted by the government to affect the exaction of what is due from the taxpayer is known as collection. The actual effort exerted by the government to affect the exaction of what is due from the taxpayer is known as How are you there? Are you still fine, my dear students? Okay, it is very easy, diba? I hope you enjoyed your quiz. Are you? That's it! Congratulations! We will check your answers in our next episode. You may continue your activity after this broadcast. And for now, to commend you for a job well done, give yourselves a round of applause. Your final scores will be sent to you by your teacher. Our episode has come to an end. So for now, you may just put your answer sheets inside your envelope, which would be sent to the school for checking. If you have questions regarding our episode for today, you may just call or text your Fundamentals of Accounting and Business Management teachers in your respective schools. Be sure to tune in on the final episode here at Radyo Eskwela sa Isabela. Be sure to tune in on the final episode. On behalf of the scriptwriter, yours truly, and your radio teacher with the RBI production team, once again, I am Rhea Jane Valia Bernardo, your teacher on air. Always reminding you, we learn as one, walang batang maiiwan sa SDO Isabela. Goodbye, stay safe, and God bless.
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang maiiwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela!